Hello and thank you for tuning in to Millennium Movies. So today Sony announced that they have a brand new production company called PlayStation Productions. So this is going to be a sister company to Sony Pictures, and Sony Pictures is the film branch of Sony as a company. And basically, of course, you've seen a bunch of Sony Pictures movies by now. I mean, a ton of them have made so much money. I mean, there's Jumanji: Welcome to the Jungle, Spider-Man: Into the Spider-Verse, Chappie, Venom. Those are some of their more recent films that you probably recognize from Sony Pictures. But so basically, what is PlayStation Productions? Is this just another, film production studio? Well, not exactly, because what makes PlayStation Productions different is that they're going to solely, exclusively, see what I did there, focus on developing and producing projects based on the company's catalog of more than 100 exclusive PlayStation games dating all the way back to the very first PlayStation. So yeah, this means that we're going to be getting movies and shows based off of the exclusives throughout PlayStation history. So we're talking about everything. Everything's fair game. Everything from Uncharted to The Last of Us to God of War, even to something way, way back as Resistance or Killzone, Heavenly Sword, Ratchet and Clank. I think the possibilities here are they're endless. They really are, because of the fact that you have room for so many types of storytelling formats. Again, you can do TV, you can do live action TV, you can do animated TV, you can do an animated movie, you can do a live action film. I think there's certainly room for everything here. There's a ton of great PlayStation exclusives that a lot of people haven't even played, and you can introduce them now, and you can even introduce casual fans into some of these games that are a little more less known than other big properties. Just last year, you think of the biggest properties were Spider-Man PS4, God of War, right? I mean, Uncharted 4 recently. I mean, the success that PlayStation has had thus far with their exclusives and their titles, I mean, it's unprecedented, really, how many great exclusive games they've created over the years. So let's think right now. What are some of the possibilities that we could be possibly getting? Well, first I'm going to get this one title out of the way early, and that is Uncharted, because we do know that Sony Pictures, not PlayStation Productions, but Sony Pictures has already been developing an Uncharted movie, and basically it's with Tom Holland, who plays Spider-Man in the MCU. He's been tapped to play the young Nathan Drake, and basically what Sony Pictures has decided to do is they're going to make a young Nathan Drake movie and tell stories from Drake's youth that we've not seen in the video games yet. So we know that that's coming out, so we're not getting a young Nathan Drake movie, but we could still get an older Nathan Drake movie headed by PlayStation Productions. We'll have to wait and see. Maybe they wouldn't want to step over Sony Pictures' title right there, because they already, Sony Pictures beat us to Uncharted. We're still all under the Sony umbrella. Let's leave Uncharted to them. But just because Sony Pictures has Uncharted doesn't mean we can't create other Naughty Dog titles. And if you're thinking what I'm thinking, you're probably aware that I'm talking about The Last of Us, right? Like, The Last of Us was such a great game, and I think a lot of us have always wondered, what would The Last of Us be like as a movie, right? I mean, personally, hey, Bradley Cooper with his beard, his full-on beard, let him get a little bit of muscle, and hey, he could easily be my Joel, right? He could be Joel from The Last of Us for all I know, and whoever they cast as Ellie, I'm sure, would be a great job. Hell, you can get Arya Stark from Game of Thrones. Maybe she's a little bit too old now, but a long time ago maybe she would have been the perfect choice. But yeah, you can get a bunch of people, right? You can get just so many actors to fill these roles of these iconic characters in PlayStation history, right? I mean, hell, think of Horizon Zero Dawn, right? We can get a Horizon Zero Dawn TV show. I mean, you can cast Rose Leslie from Game of Thrones as Aloy. I mean, wow, the possibilities again are endless. You can get a Sly Cooper animated series. I mean, hell, go back to the crazy things. I've always wanted an infamous movie. Maybe not so much Delson Rowe. I don't have anything against Delson Rowe and Infamous Second Son, but Infamous 1 and Infamous 2 are some of my favorite PlayStation exclusives of all time. I mean, and again, you can go back to the more obscure titles. Hardcore PlayStation fans know these games, but the casuals won't. Something like Shadow of the Colossus. That would make for a great animated TV series. You can get a lot out of the mythology of the Shadow of the Colossus, right? And those beasts. And so, again, I think that the possibilities here with PlayStation Productions are endless. And I think that for those of you who might be worried about video game adaptations, whether it be movies or shows, because there hasn't been very many successful ones. I mean, if you think as recently as, Assassin's Creed, and how that movie just didn't perform very well. You think of the old Mortal Kombat movie and how that one didn't perform very well either. And you think of a movie that had these giant budgets like Warcraft, right? And that movie didn't do well either. So I understand the worry that you might have when you think of video game adaptations, but I want to point out Detective Pikachu, right? That's the most recent example of a successful video game, because it's successful with so far financially it's doing well, and as well as critic reviews. People are saying, it's a nice, enjoyable time. And I'm not saying Detective Pikachu is this amazing movie that you need to go out and see, but it's fine. It works. It was good. It was well enough to get a passing grade from me and most critics and most fans and most viewers. So I think that with PlayStation Production and with Sean Layden being the overseer of this, I think that you have the possibility of getting great video game adaptations and changing the stigma against video game adaptations in pop culture like film and TV. Especially because one thing that really gives me the confidence with PlayStation Productions is Sean Layden said in an interview with the Hollywood Reporter that, when you see a lot of these unsuccessful video game adaptations, he says that I think you can tell that those stories were being written and directed by screenwriters and directors who weren't video game fans, who didn't understand the property that they were dealing with, right? And I think that that's pretty true. When you're talking about video game movies and video game shows, you want to have creators who understand the properties, who understand these gigantic worlds that exist that sometimes have, 70 to 80 hours worth of storytelling in the gameplay, right? Between side missions and all these different quests you can go on, not just the main storylines. So, me personally, I have some faith in what PlayStation Productions can end up doing as a whole in the future. And another thing that gives me confidence is they're saying that they're not rushing anything. They don't need to rush. They've barely been announced. So they don't have to set, hey, we're going to do 3 movies this year. We're going to do Killzone, we're going to do God of War, and we're going to do a Crash Bandicoot animated series. That'd be pretty cool, though, wouldn't it? But no, they're not doing that. So they're taking their sweet time. Hell, they can do 1 movie per year, and once they get their foot, dip their toes in the water and get comfortable, then we can start getting the gigantic, big budgeted projects like a God of War, right? Like an Uncharted, like The Last of Us. So again, I have a ton of faith in PlayStation. I have a ton of faith in Sony. So I'm very much looking forward to seeing what PlayStation Productions can do for us as fans, as both film fans and as PlayStation fans. So yeah, let me know in the comment section below what you guys think. What are some video game movies from PlayStation exclusives that you would love to see be translated into some big budget movies or some TV shows or whatever format of storytelling that you want to see? Please let me know in the comment section below. I'd love to hear what you guys have to say. And also keep in mind that very soon, in a few days, I will also have another video coming out on It Chapter 2 and the possibility that we might be getting It Chapter 3 or even a spin-off or a prequel in the It franchise. So you're not going to want to miss that video. But anyways, guys, this has been Millennium Movies, and I will see you all very soon.